The objective of basketball is pretty simple. Score more points than the other team, and you win. Each of these dots is the team that scored the most points per game during their respective season, and what their win percentage was that year. Generally speaking, if you lead the league in points per game, you'll probably win a lot of games. Sure, there are some outliers, but of these teams, only 3 of them didn't make the playoffs. Wait, 3? Looks like there's only 2. The 90-91 Denver Nuggets had one of the weirdest NBA seasons ever. They led the league in points per game, putting up nearly 120 a night. That would have placed them second in points per game this past year. But they were bad. Like really bad. They didn't even make the playoffs that year. In fact, they finished dead last with a 20-62 record. Their point guard was Michael Adams, a 5'10" scoring and playmaking machine. His push shot release looked unconventional, but it was effective. He was often among the league leaders in three-pointers made, and he averaged nearly 27 and 11 that year, finishing 6th in the league in points per game, ahead of guys like Dominique Wilkins, Chris Mullin, and David Robinson. And in assists per game, he trailed only John Stockton and Magic Johnson. Forward Orlando Woolridge put up big scoring numbers too, at over 25 a game. He was known as a dunk specialist, and was actually the first to complete a between-the-legs dunk at the 84 contest. His athleticism was elite, and with someone like Adams feeding him the ball, he thrived. Blair Rasmussen nearly averaged a double-double, and Reggie Williams added over 16 a game of his own. Pair that core with role players like rookie Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf, who'd go on to make all-rookie second team, and 6-time All-Star vet Walter Davis, who at 36 years old still put up over 18, they sound like a pretty good team on paper. But as we mentioned, they weren't. And there's one simple reason why they were so bad.
Defense wins championships.
Defense wins championships.
Defense wins championships.
Defense wins championships.
Defense wins championships. Okay.
They say defense wins championships. And that year, the Nuggets played none of it.
Mullin wide open. No defense there.
They had a history of high-paced offenses throughout the 80s and early 90s, led by coaches Doug Moe and Paul Westhead. Both of these guys preferred a run-and-gun style of play. They relied heavily on ball movement, screens, and prioritized shooting early in the shot clock, before opponents' defense had a chance to get set up.
Very deliberate half-court offense here. Unusual for Paul Westhead's team. Jerome Lane, great pass to Lowry. What a look away to Lowry.
They found some success with this system under Moe, but under Westhead in 90-91, the focus on offense was detrimental to their defense. Opponents sliced through it like butter. The Nuggets would expend all of their energy on offense, and at times appeared to give up baskets in order to get one. Sports writers during the 90-91 season nicknamed them the Enver Nuggets, because they had no D.
The Denver Nuggets gave up close to 164 points a game in the preseason.
Here's a list of each team's opponent points per game for the 90-91 season. Teams on the low end of this list include some of the best defenses of the era. The Bad Boys Pistons and the Jordan-Pippen duo rank among the best. Moving up the list, you've got the Run TMC Warriors, who gave up 115, but they still made the playoffs with a 44-38 record. And then, you have the Nuggets. Giving up more than 130 a game, they were in a league of their own. If we take that same metric and update the time frame to all time, the 90-91 Nuggets still stand alone, giving up the highest opponent points per game in history. and the difference between them and second is larger than the difference between second and 12th. They were just getting pummeled at their own game. Yeah, they'd put up a lot of points, but they'd give up even more. A formula that doesn't lead to many wins. Obviously, they missed the playoffs, and just 1 year later, head coach Paul Westhead was fired. After the season ended, both Michael Adams and Orlando Woolridge were traded. Adams to the Washington Bullets, where he'd make his lone All-Star appearance the following season, and Woolridge to the Detroit Pistons. The Nuggets broke up their core scorers to build around younger players, including the aforementioned Abdul Rauf, and 91 draft picks Mark Macon and Dikembe Mutombo. Even though this core never really transformed into a winning one, Nuggets fans have had something to cheer about over the past couple decades. From 2004 to 2013, they didn't miss the playoffs, and they've got an active streak of 5 straight appearances. Their high-octane offense of the early 90s is long gone, but the Nuggets have adopted a different game plan, one centered around arguably the antithesis of high pace and athleticism. And it's worked out pretty well.
Falling away, puts it up.